it's Alicia again, and today I have another super simple recipe for you. And this time it is for Healthy Granola Fruit Pizza. Now, this recipe is probably more of a spring or summer recipe because it does involve fresh fruit. But my husband asked me if I would make it for him because I've made it before and he really loved it. And so I thought, well, I would go ahead and show you all how it comes together. Okay, I'm going to start by going over all the ingredients that are in the fruit tart. And I'm going to start with what's in the crust. So first, you're going to have your old-fashioned oats. And then next, you're going to have oat flour. Now, all I did to get my oat flour was take the old-fashioned oats here, put them in my NutriBullet, and I ground them up. And it took like less than a minute. So you can either buy your own oat flour already pre-done, or you can just make your own from the oats that you're already going to be using for this recipe. You can also use a food processor if you want. And I have one of those, but my NutriBullet is on my counter all the time, so it was just considerably easier to use that, plus it's a lot easier to clean and everything else. But if you want to use a food processor, you can also do that. Okay, so next we have our coconut oil. And if you don't like coconut oil or you don't have coconut oil, you can also use just plain old butter. But I have coconut oil and I actually really like it, so I bake with it a lot. Okay, next we have honey. You could also use maple syrup if you want to. Next is imitation vanilla. Then we have some ground cinnamon, some salt, and you're gonna need some cooking spray to spray your pan that you're gonna cook your crust in. So I'm just using pan. And that is it for the crust ingredients. Another thing to note about the ingredients that are in here is this is a gluten-free recipe because there is no wheat flour in it. So if you have a gluten sensitivity or you're just trying to avoid gluten, this recipe is very friendly to that. Okay, moving on to the filling. All you're gonna need for your filling is some Greek yogurt. I'm using light Greek vanilla. You can use any kind of Greek yogurt you want. And then again, you're gonna need imitation vanilla and honey. And also again, you can use maple syrup in lieu of the honey if you want to. Okay, moving on to our toppings. I got this idea off of Pinterest, like I get a lot of my ideas. And I'm not the most artistic or creative type person, so I went ahead and pretty much just copied the picture that they had on Pinterest. For one, it was really pretty, and it had all the fruits that I like, and my husband likes, and my kids like. So I thought, why not? Make it easy on myself and pretty much just follow the picture that they had on Pinterest. I did omit, I think, one thing, but everything else is pretty much the same. If you are artistic or you don't like the fruits that I'm using, go ahead and do your own design, use your own fruits, you know, get creative with it. But I just wanted it to be easy, and so I pretty much just followed the photo. So I will show you which fruits I'm using in this. Gonna use some strawberries, some raspberries, some blueberries, kiwi, and these are mandarin oranges in a cup. Now I have fresh mandarin oranges, but I just figured it's a lot easier to use the ones in the cup. For one thing, they're already peeled, no skin on them, and I actually think they just look prettier too. Okay, very important to note is you want to make sure and wash your fruit very well. Nobody wants to be getting E. coli from your fruit tart, no matter how good it tastes. So make sure you wash your fruit very well. And mine has all been washed. Okay, lastly, you are going to need a small bowl, and you're gonna just use this to mix up your filling ingredients. Then you're gonna need a medium-sized bowl, and that is gonna be for your crust ingredients. Then you're gonna need something to cook your crust in. Well, just put your crust in general. I'm using this cake pan, which I may or may not have permanently borrowed from my mother. Mom, if you're watching, sorry if this is yours. Anyway, I'm using this cake pan. You could probably use like a pie pan or pie dish. Whatever vessel you want to cook this in. This is just what I've used before, and it seems to work pretty well. Also, if you want to really ensure that your crust is not going to stick to whatever vessel you use to cook it in, you can also cut out a piece of parchment paper and put it in the bottom of your pan. I'm just going to use the cooking spray because that's worked for me in the past, and I'm not going to make more work for myself by using parchment paper. But if you want to, you can do that also. Okay, now that I've gone over the ingredients, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make the crust. First, we're going to put in our 2 cups of oats. Then we're going to put in our 3/4 cup of oat flour. Then we are going to put in our 3 tablespoons of coconut oil, our teaspoon of vanilla, and in here I have a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Also, you want to make sure that your coconut oil is at room temperature, because otherwise makes it a little bit more difficult to mix this up, which mine I think is a little cooler than it should be, but it's still gonna work. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and mix the ingredients for the crust up, and then I will show you what it looks like when I get done with that. But I also want to add that before you even start, you want to get your oven going, and you're going to be baking this at 350. Okay guys, I have got the crust ingredients all mixed together, and I want to note that I completely forgot to put the honey in while I was filming. So I went back, put the honey in, and now that it is all mixed up, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to now put it in my already greased pan, and then I will show you what that looks like once it's done. This is kind of a messy little process because this crust is really sticky because of all the honey. But I just go ahead and do the best I can to get it pressed down in there. And like I said, I will show you what mine looks like when I get it in there. Okay, I've got my crust pressed into my cake pan here. And my oven is preheated to 350, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in for about 10 minutes, and then I will check on it and see if it's ready. And while I'm cooking this, I'm gonna go ahead and start on my filling. So I will take you over and show you that. Okay. So for the filling, all you're gonna need is 1 1/3 cups of Greek yogurt, a teaspoon of vanilla, and then the honey. And since I'm using vanilla Greek yogurt, I'm just gonna put a little bit of this in here. The recipe calls for 1 to 2 tablespoons, but I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little in, eyeballing it. And that looks good. And then once I get this all stirred together, I'm going to just stick it in the fridge to keep it cool while everything else is going. And then I'm going to start cutting my fruit. So I'm gonna finish stirring this. I'm gonna cut my fruit and then I will be back to show you the next step. Okay guys, it has been roughly 20 minutes and this is smelling and looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it out right now. And that's what it looks like. And apparently Bella thinks it smells pretty good too, don't you, Bella? Okay, so that needs to cool completely before we can do anything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that set, and when it cools down quite a bit more, I'll probably actually put it in the fridge or the freezer to kind of expedite the cooling process. But over here, I've got my strawberries and my kiwi sliced up. That's all I had to cut. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put this fruit in the fridge until I'm ready to put the rest of this together. Okay, I am back and the crust is cooled. So now I'm going to take my yogurt topping and I'm gonna spread it on the cooled crust. Now I'm just gonna take a spatula and spread this around. And now we're going to start putting our fruit on. So I'm gonna start with the raspberries and the blueberries. And I'm just going to put them on the far edge in an alternating way. Okay, now that I've got my raspberries and my blueberries on there, I'm gonna move on to my mandarin oranges. And I'm gonna just put them right up against the raspberries and the blueberries. Okay, now that I've got my mandarin oranges all the way around, I'm going to start putting the kiwis on. Okay, I've got my kiwis on, and now I'm gonna move to my strawberries. And now that my strawberries are on, I'm going to sprinkle a few more blueberries on the top. Okay, and there is what it looks like when I'm done putting on the fruit on. So now, before you want to cut into this, you really probably should put it back in the fridge and let it get all nice and firmed back up again. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna put it back in the fridge, and then when I get ready to cut into it, I will cut a slice out so you can see what it looks like a little bit better. Okay, here is it cut out. It got a little messed up on the top when I cut it out, but that's what it looks like. This recipe is great for breakfast, brunch, dessert, whatever you want to eat it for, and it tastes as good as it looks. So I hope you will try this recipe. I hope you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.